Sorry, Kathy.
Hi. Welcome. Hi. Hi. I would clink a glass if I had one. Let me just get your attention for a few moments. Thank you. Great. Welcome. My name is Shuli Hallak. I'm the executive director of the Internet Society New York chapter, and we're here tonight to celebrate our 20th anniversary. So congratulations. I'll keep my remarks brief because we have a bunch of people that are going to speak. So for those of you that don't know, the Internet Society supports and promotes the development of the Internet as a global technical infrastructure, a resource to enrich people's lives, and a force for good in society. Our work as a chapter aligns with the goals of the Internet to be open, globally connected, secure, and trustworthy. We seek collaboration with all who share these goals. And we believe that the Internet is for everyone. The New York chapter was founded on December 19th, 1997. And since then, we have been working hard in support of ISOC's mission to assure the beneficial open evolution of the global Internet. Maybe some of you are new to our events, and maybe some of you have been here before. We've hosted privacy workshops, events with expert speakers. We partner with other like-minded organizations to help educate end users and promote our mission for an open Internet. We've partnered with Google to work on digital preservation, and we have some of these great events coming up in early 2018. So please stay tuned, sign up as a member, and you'll get our wonderful mailings. Yes, and Dave Burstein has the sign up front. So before we move on to what our future work is, we want to talk about how we got here. We have some remarks from our founders. But right now, I want to introduce you to someone that probably doesn't need an introduction. Joly MacFie is a presence in the New York internet scene. He live streams just about everything. Some people think he's a clone of himself because he's so everywhere. He's been with our chapter since at least 1999. He's also extremely knowledgeable on just about everything that's happening in this space. And we're very lucky to have him as the president of our chapter. So, Joly.
Okay, so, the Internet Society of New York, was founded by the, as part of the internet. And before I talk, I'd like to bring up Dave here, Dave Farber, who's sometimes called the grandfather of the internet, because it was some of his students that came up with the some of the original protocols, such as John Postel was one of them. And so, right now, we're very lucky to have him staying in New York, and we've got him here tonight. So Dave, just come up and say a few words about how the internet got going and where you think it's going.
Literally unprepared as I am, since you just told me when I walked in the room. Let me go back, way, way back, and I'm not sure I even remember the date, but a bunch of us got together down in Washington. Vince Cerf had the notion of creating an organization which he thought visioned as the AAA of the internet, something that would have everybody in it service them like the AAA, at least in spirit, is supposed to be doing. Let's see, there was Bob Kahn there, Larry Landweber, myself, Ira Fuchs, a few of us at that initial meeting where we hammered out, not necessarily quietly, the structure of the Internet Society. It was formed, I was on the first board, along with a lot of the founders. It's come a long way since then, as it's now an international organization, large, well represented in most countries by chapters. Chapters take part, as New York chapter does, in the local thing, and contribute to the divisions of the society as a whole. I think there's it's been an exciting future because there's, I think, going to be changes in ISOC and the relations with the chapters. The chapters have always been sort of convenient to have, provided they support themselves. I think that's going to change in the future as the chapters become ways of communicating with the governments and economies of their countries. So I think they'll take a much more important role, and certainly the New York chapter is one of them. I'm not going to talk forever, but back to you, sir.
Thanks, Dave. And I will mention that Dave runs a mailing list called Interesting People. And if you write to him, he's Dave at farber.net. He'll put you on that list and you'll get a lot of interesting mails. And seems my mic's okay. So then, you know, we came to, that was in '92 when the Internet Society was formed. So in fact, ISOC-NY was actually approved in '97, and this is the 20th anniversary of that. But I understand it was formed sometime earlier, and we're lucky to have the actual founder, the prime mover over here, Wayne. Wayne, come up here and tell us how you ended up starting ISOC-NY back then. Wayne Spivak.
Good evening. My name is Wayne Spivak, and as Joly said, I'm one of the founders. I am not the founder. One of the other founders is Everett, and Kathy is on the screen there. Hi, Kathy. It's been a long time.
Kathy, it's Everett. Can you hear me?
Hi, Everett.
So roughly 21 years ago, a group of us got together. I don't remember how, but we ended up meeting and we said, this is a great idea. We were all involved in the internet. Let's start a chapter up. And there were already 1 or 2 chapters operating. And that's a nice term to say, operating. And so we spent many a meeting deciding what did we want the chapter to be, what were our bylaws, and then once we did that, and Everett being the lawyer was kind enough to do the incorporation papers, you know, we said, okay, now we need to get chapter officers, and everybody took a step back while I was still standing, not paying attention. So I became the founding president. And Everett became the first vice president. That was a mistake too. And so, and hence we started having meetings and getting more people. Our first major meeting that got exposure was talking about DNS, and we were lucky enough to get some of the experts that were in DNS at the time. It was well attended. The second major event featured Vince Cerf, who was the most fascinating gentleman I've met in a very long time. And Vince spoke for 45 minutes to an hour, and I think that was a highlight, watershed that really pushed the chapter forward. And so during that period of time—
I have video of that.
Yes, you have video of that. I probably have a beard, but it's not gray. And then during that time, I obtained your 501c3, which is still active, which is a good thing to have. And then, you know, after 2 years, it was time to transition out, and my successor came in place, Bill Thompson, who's not here tonight. But, you know, as I said, starting any organization, I don't care what it is, and I do a lot of startups. I act as the CFO, or I am the CFO. It's not one person. One person may come up with the idea, but everything's a team effort. And part of that team, and crucial to that team, was Everett. So Everett, please, join me at the podium.
Thanks, Wayne. So good to see you again.
We haven't seen each other in about 18 years.
Yeah, so it's great to be here. Thanks for the invite. I was actually told there was booze. That's how I arrived, so thank you. No, but in all seriousness, I remember vaguely how part of the reason we came together was I actually met Vince Cerf in Boston in like 1995 or so. And I didn't know that much about him, but I knew that he was instrumental in the formation of the overall headquarters. And I might have asked him or someone else if there was a New York chapter, and they said there wasn't. So then I reached out to the headquarters, and they said that some folks had been making inquiries about forming a chapter, and I think we exchanged contact information, and that's sort of the genesis. And we all got together, and I'll always cherish those early memories. But you know, it's just incredible to see all the changes that have taken place in the last 20 years. And now I, as a business lawyer, I work with startups, and I represent clients who are, you know, younger than I was then 20 years ago. And sometimes I feel like saying, back in the day, we didn't have the Wi-Fi and the Google, you know. So it's great that you guys have, you know, continued the great work, and thanks for the invite.
Thank you, Joly. Anybody have a question that we can't answer? All right, I like that.
Like, you know, I want to bring on Kathy as well, because she's another of the original crew. So, Kathy, do you want to tell us how you got involved with ISOC-NY?
Yes, for those of you who don't know, I was running an organization in Brooklyn called PASA. It was originally called People Against Sexual Abuse, and it turned into Positive Attitudes, Solutions, and Actions. And in the mid-90s, I became aware that kids were going to be at risk on the internet. And so I set about to develop a training program in our loft in downtown Brooklyn. I was hoping maybe that one of the other guys could fill in the blank, because I can't remember how we all came together, but somehow we must have been the people in the room and were willing to step up and say, yes, I'll put my name here. I think I must have been out of the room with Wayne, because I vaguely remember I was the treasurer, but I'm not sure about that. And it was very short-lived. I left New York in 2001 and retired, closed the business, and I'm still doing technology. Right now I work with Kaiser Permanente in their member partner advisory group, and I'm on the telehealth committee and telemedicine and technology committee. And when Joly called me, or when he emailed me, I was struck by two things. One, that the way that he found me had to do with the fact that I'd finally gotten a domain name way back, I think in '92. And so it was easy for him to find me, thinking about how many people didn't really understand or appreciate how important that is. And the other part was, I said, well, I can't come because I'm here in Oregon, but maybe we could do some kind of Zoom or Skype or something. And when I thought about it, this would not have been possible way back then. It's just, and when we did the sound setup earlier today, it was like, we've been doing this all the time. Thank you, Joly. Thank you, Wayne. Thank you, everybody. I'll be in touch. Somebody has my information. Congratulations to all of you who are still showing up.
I will say, for those of you that remember, there was something called See You, See Me back in the day. But so, you know, how I tracked all these people down was thanks to archive.org, where I could go back and look at it, look at our website. The earliest website is from July '98, and that was, and it says, you know, what time is, you know, built by Wayne here. But one of the things that impressed me when I went through to this was that they described like the web team, and included in the web team was Joseph Schrademan, and he is still an active member of ISOC-NY. He's our current treasurer, and so he is actually the longest, way beyond me, standing member. And so, you know, I would like a round of applause for Joseph, who's over here, who is so, you know, how I came to it. Well, you know, my background, as some of you know, is in punk rock, and punk rock was like, you know, was all about peer-to-peer and bottom-up, you know, people passing around notes at the back of class. And I used to print a lot of fanzines. I made badges and so on. And I thought, well, and then I had my VIC-20 with a 300 baud modem. And I said, if we could all, yeah, we didn't need to print anything, if we could all do this. And I was in England, and this was in '78. So I managed to come to California in '83 to see, because that was where it was all going on. And I got there and I found out that all the people who were doing it were hippies. They had the well, you know, and there was all these deadheads and so on, and punk rock was not in there at all. And I actually, and I actually gave up on it until, you know, the World Wide Web arrived. And what the big thing was when the 486 processors and suddenly Trumpet WinSock and stuff like this made it so everybody could do it, which was like 94. There was something called NetCruiser, Netcom NetCruiser, which you could just install and you were on. And so I got on that, and then I discovered that, you know, you could write HTML and make a web page and stick it on your computer and so on. And, you know, in '95, I put up my first website for a band, which was the Bad Brains, who some of you may have heard of. And I'm proud that I have a listing on the NCSA list, which was, at that time, you had one, which was everywhere in the world was the NCSA list. So, you know, and I joined the internet, I founded the Internet Society, so I joined it. I said, this is a good thing. And then eventually I joined the New York chapter, and so then they had Vint Cerf. I had, you know, and then they brought out real audio, so I started doing video and audio and video and stuff. I used to send someone down to CBGB every Sunday to like go and record the bands, you know, and stick them up in like 160 by 120, you know, video on the punkcast.com, which I made, and then the Internet Society started doing events. So I had sent the CBGB's guy down to like shoot the Vint Cerf thing, and we posted it up. And there's a great, it's kind of disappeared, but I have it somewhere on a DV tape. And Vint had come straight from the White House, where he'd had to explain how the internet worked. And he does this little talk how the internet works in 5 minutes. He had to tell Clinton, you know, and these people, which is a great little piece of video. And then I went to another event. They had Robert Dewar, RIP, doing a talk at NYU about intellectual property. And I was interested in this because back in punk rock, basically, there was no copyright. You just supported the scene. You dealt with bands. You know, there was no system. But now on the internet, everybody could see you. So I thought, well, you've got to figure out this intellectual property business. So I went to this thing. And Dewar did a great presentation. He had a Robert Jefferson, you know, impersonator come out and do the thing about, you know, if I pass the flame to you, it's no, you know, is it diminished in any way? You know, the whole speech about this. And I'd said to him before, can I video this? Sure. I went home and videoed it, and I posted some of it up online. And then he wrote back to me and said, "Oh, I didn't say you could put it online. I was just, you know," you know. And then I got a message from the president, Lucia, who was the president of the Internet Society of New York, saying, "How dare you do this? What do you think?" You know, and so basically, I was castigated out of the Internet Society of New York. But I found in my life that anywhere that I really get on with well, the first time I go in there, they kick me out on the street. So I ended up back in, and then you know, so I got into like something else in the 2000s, but I came back into doing this. I went out and shot bands, yeah. But then once YouTube came along, I didn't have to shoot bands, so I started shooting tech, and then I got back into the Internet Society, and here you see me now doing. And so back to the Internet Society. So, you know, one of the things I like about it is that it's such a broad tent. It includes, you know, people like Dave, the top academics that invented the thing, and at the same time, you know, people who we've got 120 chapters around the world. There are people who are just cracking the thing in their countries. There are, you know, human rights activists. There are people, cybersecurity people. There's all kinds of stuff going on. And it's, you know, the amount of stuff you see that I go to all these events, and it's not just in New York. I run the streaming for the Internet Society. So if they have a chapter event in Botswana, you know, I'm streaming it out. So I see a lot of what goes on. And some people don't think, you know, what does the Internet Society do? But if you actually go and look at our live stream page, you'll see that a lot of what we do. But on the New York chapter, you know, well, I will say that, you know, the one project that I'm proud of in the last year that we've done is become the fiscal sponsor. And this is thanks to the 501c3, is that we can be a fiscal sponsor for NYC Mesh. And you know, which is an alternative mode of hooking up to the internet here in New York. And it's something that the Internet Society as a whole is looking at now. You know, the idea of that the internet is something that comes from the internet to you, of turning that round to making it into the idea that something is that you reach out to each other for the internet, and that, you know, the last mile is actually the first mile. But I'd like to ask Brian from NYC Mesh just to come up and tell us briefly about how, you know, how he's doing with this project. And also, come on, Brian, and I'd like to mention he's going to be making a presentation at Brooklyn Law School on January the 11th. If you go to his meetup, you can sign up for that.
Thank you, Joly. It's about 1.5 years ago, NYC Mesh was a small community Wi-Fi network, and we had no money, and we were trying to expand by planning our first large antenna. To help with this, we asked ISOC-NY if they could be our fiscal sponsor, because we need that so we could accept donations and apply for grants. And then we applied for the ISOC Beyond the Net grant, which we won. And that enabled us to start the year off with paying for our supernode antenna, and which has really allowed us to expand.
You don't need notes, Brian.
Sorry, I don't need notes. I've got a little story here. At the beginning of the year, we were getting around 4 join requests per week. You can go onto our website and you can join our network there, and we'll try and connect you. But a few weeks ago, with net neutrality, people became more aware of the advantages of having a community-owned network. You know, we're a neutral network, and no matter what the law is, we'll still be neutral. And things got a little bit crazy. Twitter went crazy, and the join requests are about 10 a day now. It's just hundreds this month. So yeah, we're expanding quickly now, and we're planning our 3rd and 4th supernode. The supernodes are basically a bunch of sector antennas in a building that's got like gigabit fiber to it. So and with these supernodes, we can reach out to like hundreds of buildings and connect them directly to the internet backbone. So yeah, I'd like to thank ISOC for the grant, and ISOC-NY for helping and all the support, especially Joly and Shuli and Joseph. And yeah, thanks for making all this possible.
Thanks, Brian. And we'll say is, you know, when we applied for this grant, there was a lot of pushback. You know, well, why do you need this in New York? You know, and we said, well, you know, there are underserved people, the people who can't get internet here in New York, and people who can't afford internet in New York. And now, you know, thanks to Brian, it's becoming a model, you know, which people are looking to, like, you know, emulate. And you know, and as you say, he's got great growth, and for that we thank Ajit Pai, who is the prime mover of the growth right now. Another project that Shuli has going on is she's working on the digital preservation in partnership with Google and Vint, and we have an event coming up on that in DC and New York soon. And this is a very interesting topic which people are not even thinking about now, is like how you can make digital stuff that'll last for like not 50, you know, not 5 years, but 100 years, and still be findable in that time. And this is something that they're really going to like explore in the next year. And then what everybody wants to talk about, of course, is net neutrality. And you know, there was a council meeting a few years back where Gail called a council meeting to do this, and everybody was, you know, well, we hate this. And I was the last person to speak, and I stood up and said, well, you know, we're kind of ambivalent at the Internet Society, because, you know, we've grown up as an end-run ground telecom, and, you know, basically we don't want to support regulation here, because if we support regulation here, all these other places where we're trying to keep it free, they'll take it as an excuse to clamp down on it, you know. So, you know, we're still in this kind of ambivalent, slightly ambivalent mode of like trying to change the frame. And the frame, you know, we like is open internet working, and what we want to see is access to infrastructure. That's what's important, so that people like Brian can make their local networks and reach the stuff, and then, you know, these other business of then those big guys can do what they like, as long as we can all talk to each other and we can all reach each other on an open network. So that is really where the Internet Societies kind of comes from. And another event we're hoping to set up in the new year is we'll have Dave, who has always been somewhat anti this. He had a great debate with Vint Cerf in 2009 about this, setting him up for him versus Tim Wu. So that's something to look forward to into the new year. Maybe we'll set them off against each other. So I don't think I've got anything else to keep you from getting back to the drinks. Shuli, you have anything? Okay, well, thank you everybody for coming very much. And the last thing is that we do have elections right now, and the deadline for putting your name up to be on our board is like midnight tonight. So there is still time to like nominate yourself for our board if you should so wish to. You don't have to be on the board to be involved. And Dave is taking signatures over there.
I got vice president open.
Well, you know, you got to run against me, but you know, you're in with a good chance. You know. Okay, thank you, everybody.